So I want to share with you as a psychologist why I am personally not a fan of such concepts as that name, and how it might not really be the best way for you to utilize, to continue to use the type of terminology, that name. By any means, if the word that name resonates with you, of course, continue to use it. I just want to share with you as a psychologist and my experience in trans field, how that might be affecting you long term. So that name. The reason why I don't like to use the word that name is because I'm all about integration. I think it's really, really important psychologically for people who are transitioning and take any elements of transition to be able to integrate their gender history prior to starting transition. Integration, in my opinion, is highly, highly important. The reason why integration is so important, well, because you don't just disregard this part of your history. This part of your history is still embedded in who you are as an individual, even though you may not resonate with some elements of your gender history, even though if you don't feel comfortable with some elements of your gender history, it is still part of who you are. So to completely negate it is not the healthiest way, psychologically, in my opinion, for you to grow. So for that reason, I don't like the word that name, because that name really implies in a way that as if that part of you has died. And the way I see it is, well, the way I see it is that part of you hasn't really died. You're still, to a large extent, very much the same, and yet there's still a lot of elements about you that are changing. There's a lot of elements about you that will continue to change as you continue to become much more comfortable, much more congruent with your gender, with your authentic gender representation and gender expression. So this is one of the main reasons why I don't really like it, because it negates that integration piece. I know that a lot of people don't like to hear their previous names, especially if they were living in the environments or they were living in a context where their true gender expression was not being supported at all, or particularly gender stereotypes were really superimposed onto them. As a result, they have negative, maybe even traumatic response to their old name, and I can totally, completely understand it. And maybe the best course of action in that case would be just not to use a name at all. That name, again, just psychologically, it communicates to our psyche that there's part of us that is that. And as a psychologist, when I work with transgender people, I actually try to help people how to integrate a part of their past history into their present to become much more whole and much more holistic person. So this is just my personal opinion. If it doesn't resonate with you, that's okay too.